Hello everyone, welcome back to another stream. We're back here on the Mon Ultimate and we are at Monza. Track haven't been to in a little while on LMU, I would say. But quite difficult one in the Hypercars. Lots of big braking zones into the chicanes especially. Very easy to snatch tyres, especially from what I just found out during practice. Few issues. Struggling with consistency, I must admit, around here at Monza with the braking. Just getting little locks here and there, and occasionally, one will just be just slightly big enough to cause issues. Locked the rears a couple of times. Sort of the rears just enough to spin the car off. It's been a little bit of a, I must admit, maybe frustrating. Sort of practice. A little bit frustrating, a little bit difficult. Yeah, I think, to be honest, in a way, I felt more comfortable yesterday at Spa in the rain than I do now. We will head out for qualifying. "15 minutes. Let's see what we can do. As we make our way around on the cool tires, try and bring them up to temperature. Shouldn't be too hard. Ambient is 22 degrees, not that high, but the track temp is 41 degrees, which is a bit on the high side. So should be able to get heat into tires quite easily enough, despite Monza being one of the more simpler circuits when it comes to track design. But the front left does still take a bit of a beating around here. A lot of right-hand corners, some quite high speed. I mean, even Curva Grande, technically, it's a long flat-out section, but that front left just constantly working. Whereas the front right tyre doesn't have to do that much at all. It has a few corners, but yeah, it's a bit underutilized. And that will definitely show in the tyre temperatures. So on to our first lap, it's going to be an easy lap still. Oh wait, I forgot to hit the transition button. Give me a moment. Get around here and... There we go. Sorry about that. Thank you, Kiki, pointing that out. Yeah, just forgot to hit the transition button when after I'm muting my mic. Yeah, as I said, just taking it easy on this first flying lap. Don't want to lock any tires, ruin any tires. So yeah, just taking it easy. Try not to use too much of that exit curb. No, I mean, still, it's only the first flying lap. Tyres are still too cold to make anything of it. As we come on to our second flying lap here, you know, tyres still quite cold. I mean, they're just under 60, you know, just coming up to 60 degrees. You know, we're really looking at 70, 80 degrees that we want the tyres to be in. So it shows you, you know, we're still a little bit away from being at peak lap times. Not often you see Ben Crook having a slow lap. 47.1 for his first flying lap, 7 seconds off the current benchmark. Usually the quick guys like Ben, even when the tyres are warming up, they can put in a time that you don't quite believe. I need to turn down the deployment. Would I like Camry Camera? Not really, to be honest. I do like them, but not long after dinner, so a little bit full at the moment. So now with some of the tyres creeping up into 70s, this will sort of be the first, I'd say, competitive flying lap. Into T1, look to the 150 board, braking just before it. Ooh, didn't quite get the car slowed down. A little bit of a micro lock on one of the bumps in the braking zone. Want to try and get a good exit as we make our way towards the second chicane. Looking at sort of the 150 board here once again. Shifting up second in the middle of the chicane just for better traction and stability on the exit. Again, a little bit of a micro lock with a braking zone. Down to third gear for the first Lesmo. And second Lesmo again. Want to be nice and precise with that inside curb. Don't want to take too much of the curb, it'll unsettle the car too much. But of course, want to get as tight to it as you can to open up the corner as much as possible. A scary chicane, could have braked a little bit later, a little bit more aggressively, to be honest. A little later than the 150 board, but a little bit wide on the exit. Game won't ping us for track limits. And then down towards Ascari. Braking just after the 100 board. Swing the car in, careful not to turn wide on the exit. And our first representative lap will be a 37.628. Won't be enough for the top of the timesheets just yet. Got the car in a little better to T1, but was right on the limit. Car felt like it's sort of skating on the brakes just a bit. But we find a little over a quarter of a second. Let's see if we can find any time through the second chicane. Lost a little bit of time. Little hot into Lesmo 2. Compromised the exit. And overall, we've lost about a tenth on this lap since the first chicane. Much later on the brakes into Ascari. Maybe slightly too deep. Didn't find that much time though, only found about a tenth. Must be said. Now Parabolica to finish the lap once more. A little tighter into the apex. Picks us up another 10th. This should jump us forward a little bit. Up to P3, still not front of the Cadillacs. Just struggling to get the car slowed down for T1 in time. Maybe braking a little bit too late. Maybe not enough brake pressure in the middle and late phase of the braking zone. Just trying to make sure I don't lock up. We've got 3 laps of fuel remaining. See, ooh, way too much carb there. Yeah, we'll just back off for this lap. Cool the tyres, especially the left-hand side tyres. They're getting quite hot. A little over a 10th off the fastest Cadillac at the moment. We're ahead of all but one Porsche. There we go then, Parabolica, try and get a good exit. As we go on to our penultimate flying lap. Ooh, car did not want to slow down. Classes, these are the Hypercars. We've got the Cadillac and Porsche, both LMDH cars. To be specific. LMDH. Because of course it's the regulations that IMSA designed as part of the collaboration with ACO and the WEC, who of course made the LMH regulations. Right, one final time. Then the rear just locked. Yeah. I mean, typically in a qualifying session, you can technically usually brake a few meters later than you would in a race stint, just because you're carrying so much less fuel. You know, we started that with a little under a third of a tank of fuel. But yeah, I was not getting the car stopped. Really, really struggling. Just not feeling comfortable at all. It is, I must say, it is fairly close from second to P6. Well, a little over 4/10 separating the 5 of us. We're right in the middle in P4. So yeah, still a bit of qualifying to go. A few cars coming into the pits. Let's see, Dave on to another lap. Haven't got himself up to P2. Let's go Alfie. He's also on a lap. Coming through the first sector now. Can't quite see what the delta is. Surprised to see Alfie down in P6. I mean, he wasn't too far up. Qualifying of Coda. Of course, he was behind us. Yes, LMDH, Kiki. He was behind us going into T1, and he made sure that we were aware of that. Let's just say. Oh, and he will not be qualifying ahead of us, as that's a spin into Ascari. Kind of stalled it out, coming back onto the apex. Apparently purple middle sector, potentially there. Dave has also come to an end. So that's going to be an end of qualifying. Yeah, quite tricky. For sure. I'm just going to put a little drop more fuel in. And new tyres. That would be good. I just want to see, what is the brake pressure on this default setup? It's 95%. So not quite maxed out, but on the high end for sure. Which you want it to be around a track like this at Monza. You've got big braking zones, you know, at the high speed, you know, you've got all the downforce, you can hit the brake, 100% brake pressure to really try and slow yourself down. It's the low speed, you know, if there were no high speed braking zones, they were all medium to low speed, that's when you would lower the brake pressure to try and give you that little bit more fine tuning and easier to modulate the braking forces through those braking zones. But at a high speed, you know, you want 100% brake pressure to get the car slowed down from the top speeds that we will see. I've just noticed the GT3. It's top 6 is odds are Mercedes, evens are the Fords. Quite nice split there. Not as well split in the hypercar class. So yeah, this race looking to be one of the weaker Cadillacs, rather than sort of the strongest that we were at Coda. That's all right. And you know, and one of the stronger ones at Barcelona. It is kind of weird. The pace has ebbed and flowed between people throughout this series. You know, I think the top Cadillac hasn't. It was us at Coda. It was Alfie at Barcelona. And it looks like it's going to be Dave this week here at Monza. You know, so you know, it's not easy to predict who's going to be quick in this class, which is nice. You know, it keeps things interesting. Fuel wise, I think we are going to need 28%. So we are. When we pit at hopefully the end of lap 29 is what we're going for. We will need to save a little bit of fuel, but I think that might make the braking zones a little bit easier and hopefully help with consistency. But unlike the 2 races so far, we will not be able to make it to the end of the race without pitting, whether we fuel save like we had to do at Barcelona or not, like we didn't need to at Coda. We're on the second run on the grid on the outside for T1. look in here. I think that's Zach in the Cadillac beside us, just accelerating, braking a bit. Just maybe for a bit of temperatures. Waiting for the green now.
Green flag, green flag.
Zach got a really good start. Oh, and he's binned it in T1. So much for that good start, Zach. We can't let the Porsche through as we were just being ultra cautious into T1. I don't mind, it's a long race. Tyres, while they're not cold, they're not hot. And of course, if we can save energy, it will make our pit stop a little bit shorter. And maybe that's how we can get track position on some of the cars around us. Like, look at Dave. He's dropped to 97% energy so much sooner. Porsche's gone in very deep here. Try and get a good exit compared to the Porsche, but they sort of did quite well through the exit there to get back online and not lose too much time. I was a little bit worried the closing speed in the braking zone was quite big there to the Porsche in front. Alfie's looking a little bit more confident than I am. I think I'm just going to let him go. I thought he was going to commit to the move there, so I was like, I'm just going to lift. But then he didn't. Whew, all three of us, the Porsche in front, myself and Alfie behind, all messing up the exit of Ascari there. Alfie commits to the move this time. Them go chase after the Porsche. And maybe, you know, with Alfie trying to get past the Porsche, maybe we'll be able to follow through. Even with that move, Alfie gained a bit of time on the Porsche in front. Got Matthias Fuskin behind us. Then Zach is just behind them. A little bit of a gap between us. We're not quite keeping up with the cars in front of us, unfortunately. Alfie saying the fastest lap of the race. The cars behind us ever so slightly quicker, but by less than 1/10 of a second. Something happened behind. Not sure what exactly, but something happened. A little bit of a better lap there. A little bit closer to the cars in front in terms of pace. Porsche made a mistake. That slide Alfie through. That lap a little bit slower. Oh, we're in GT3 traffic already. We're not going to get this car. Take an even bigger lift. Ooh. Could just give way under acceleration. That's not nice. Tried to put power down. Wasn't even that aggressive, I don't feel like. And rear tires are just like, no. Either way, not ideal. We've got a good launch out of Les Mode 2 there. Give ourselves a little bit of a gap towards Ascari. Lifted just for the GT3. Oh, well done, Fuskin. That was a silly dive bomb. I was just thinking, traffic hasn't really been the nicest to us. You know, it's dropped us back from the cars in front. I mean, partly my own mistake as well. You know, but we were losing time to the cars in front. We weren't getting a break from Fuskin behind. But then there's that Mercedes. I lost 1.7 seconds, and it gives me 1.75 points. The track limits thing in this game is broken at times. You know, if you miss that chicane, that's the route you're meant to take. That's why it's outlined. That's why there's a curb in the runoff area. And it's like, oh no. I wonder how much time I would have had to have lost there for it to go great. Because 1.7 seconds loss is certainly enough. More so, even. Alfie's caught and past Dave. So obviously he's a bit more confident in race trim than he was in qualifying trim. We do have maybe about 2% more energy than them. Interestingly, we've got some GT3s pitting early. I got to the curb there on the inside of the second apex. Zach's lost some time last lap. Yeah, he had a 140.9, lost 3 seconds. Rear left is up at 90 degrees. So it's the front left. Nearly. closed in a little bit on the Porsche in front, I think. Nearly ran wide there. Yeah, they're 39.1. That's a bit of a slow lap there. We gained a second, or second on Dave. Porsche invalidated their last lap. Zach heads into the pits from behind us. Gonna lose time here though. Looking at lap times that Ben's doing. Just need to avoid that sausage curb on the inside that T2. Yeah, looking at times that Ben's doing, it's really on the edge of being a 37 lap race and a 36 lap race. I know it says 36.3 in the top right. That's not always entirely accurate. Yeah, and since I said we closed up a little bit on the cars in front, we've dropped back a bit again. God damn it, Mustang. Most cars wash out wide in the middle of Parabolica. No, this Mustang decides they want to stay tight. Tires have cooled down a bit, but also partly because the track temp is dropping as we're getting later into the day. You can tell as the shadows grow across the track. Temp is down to 35 degrees, was at 40 when we started. Never the nicest feeling when you're coming up to a braking zone and you need to sneeze. Fight for the lead in GT3 is fairly close. That's certainly late on the brakes. Remember when I said this race was very on edge between a 37 and a 36 lap race? Well, look at the top right now. It's gone much closer to 37 laps. Halfway into the race, halfway to go. Just really ticking down the laps at this stage of the race. Trying not to make any mistakes, just keep it clean, tidy. Don't quite have the pace to hang on to those in front. We will get a little bit of time back when we come in for the pit stops. Depending a little bit, of course, on how good, how accurately they calculate the fuel they need to take in the pit stop. Someone's off in the gravel. GT3 picked up a lot understeer there. Also, just with how the gravel came, it looked like it's coming back towards the track. I was just a little bit worried there's going to be a car stationary on the track. Just get a dive bomb done into Parabolica. Dave saying a personal best. Nearly 7 seconds behind car in front now. Right, personal best. That's always nice. Especially when Fuskin is going a bit quicker behind. Okay, there is a gap for sure. Then he had a bit of a slow lap there, must have got caught up in traffic. back into GT3 traffic. Apex in there somewhere. There's glimpses of a little more speed. You know, we were a quarter of a second up at coming out of the second chicane there. So it's like there's a little bit more speed that I could maybe drag out of the car, but I just don't want to risk it. Because that's how you end up in the gravel like that Mustang. 4 laps till we pit. And in all honesty, the track temp coming down, it is slowly, but it's probably just giving the track a little bit more pace, since it'll allow you to push to the limit of what the car's capable of and not overheat the tyre as much. Keep it in a better operating temperature. I can tell you for a fact that Mustang lifted just to make it easier on us to make the overtake. And it probably helped both of us there. Alfie's dropped back. He's had a slow lap, 42.7. Something's happened to him that lap. Dropped him back to third place as Steve sets a new fastest. A new personal best, sorry. Like that, 2 attempts found through the first chicane alone. 4 tenths up now coming to Lesmo 1. Okay, dropping nearly a tenth and a half through Lesmo 2. And we're going to get traffic through Ascari here. Mustang being very decisive on what line it wants. On the run to Ascari. And yeah, we'll catch this Mercedes. And all that time we had from a good start to the lap is gone. Alfie's into the pits. We're going 2 more laps. Look at that, 3 tenths now. How much am I going to get this time? Didn't even come up as a warning. Interesting. Oh, Dave's had an incident. Dave's been off. That puts us into net P4 when you consider that Alfie's pitted. Dave is going to be into the pits to slap. The other Porsche that's in front of us is into the pits. We've got GT3s coming out of the pits now. Dive bombing that Mustang, but being careful of the other Mustang that just come out of the pits. Right, into the pits then this lap. We're still keeping the 28% of VE. Bit cautious into the pits. Ben is actually in the lead, is going for another lap in the Porsche. Nice, clear pit lane. One of the benefits of going an extra lap. Why are we getting rotated? That's annoying. Because also when you get rotated like that, it's harder to see if cars are coming or not because, you know, your virtual mirror isn't showing you down pit lane. And, you know, they might not be in your radar yet. Mercedes going for some fun times there through the first chicane. Tires are a little bit cold, especially the front right. Could feel that through the turn 2 there. The car just wasn't as keen on turning as I was expecting it to be. That pink Mercedes is having struggles. Alright, now we gotta make sure Dave doesn't catch up to us. The way the lighting is at the moment, where half the track is covered in shadow, but the other half still has good sunlight on it, is making it quite difficult to see. Traffic could be a deciding factor in this fight for P3. Or P4, sorry. Track's down 31 degrees now. Just close enough to make the move on that yellow Mustang. Dave half a second quicker, he is hunting. 5 minutes left in the race, 4 laps to go. Dave, 6 tenths quicker. We need a little bit more pace. Not quite the line through a Scary there. The gap is 1 second. We have 2 laps to go. Sometimes they're saying it's one thing catching, it's another thing passing. But here at Monza, where you have the long straights, the slipstream is very strong. And it makes passing much easier than it would be at other tracks. With the pace advantage that Dave has on us, it's going to be very difficult to hold him back for P4. But we'll do our best. Oh, Porsche's been off. Too much curb there. The car took off. Very lucky not to lose more time than what I did. But it's a shame, as I was going to be close enough to challenge and attack the Porsche. Final lap. Just try and get a little bit closer to the Porsche if I can, just to get some slipstream. Porsche's locked up. Porsche's thrown it off into the gravel once more. Dave's thrown in a little too deep under braking. Oh, the P3. I did not deserve P3 there whatsoever. I was not quick. But we made very few mistakes. That was a good race. I mean, we're not going to have the energy here to do a full in lap. Yeah. The main thing we did that race was we kept it consistent. We didn't make any mistake. That Porsche did not finish from that mistake. They had 4 corners to go. To secure P3. And I threw it away. Wow. That race, yeah, that race certainly livened up towards the end. Wow. That's for most of that race. It's like, oh, this is kind of bit turned into quite a boring race. We just in a bit of no man's land, no one to fight. Monza, not that interesting of a track in all honesty. I don't particularly enjoy it. It's not very interesting. It's just a lot of chicanes really. Um, so but then, yeah, Dave made the mistake, that gave us a good battle towards the end. And then, yeah, the Porsche made the last couple of laps even more interesting. Yeah, sometimes they're a slow burner, and yeah, they just pick up at the end. Wow. Yeah, I didn't particularly enjoy most of that race, but the end, the final 10 minutes, made up. They made up for the race, and they made it worth it. Yeah, P3, not deserved, but hey. First, to finish first you gotta finish. We didn't finish first, but we finished a lot higher than we should have. Yeah, good fun. Good fun. I enjoyed that. We will be back on Saturday on the original Cell Corsa once again, throwing it back to the Vintage Sports Cars series that SRL are doing. We are heading to Fuji for 68 laps or 400 kilometers of racing. That incredible turn 1 banked corner at the classic Fuji circuit. Should be good fun. We're back in the Nissan R382 that we did our first vintage sports car races back in 2024 now, then a while ago. But yeah, hopefully should be good fun. Looking forward to that race. Should be interesting. That will be on Saturday, starting maybe about 6 o'clock or 6:30, somewhere around there. But yeah, thank you, Kiki, for tuning in, chatting a bit. Thank you to those that came in and lurked a bit and or watching the VOD back. Hope you enjoyed that race, even if it was quite boring through the middle part. Hopefully, hopefully the end of it made up for you as well. Welcome, Arbel. You joined just as we're finishing. Just missed. I'll not spoil the race in case you want to watch back or you were lurking. Did good. Thank you. It didn't feel amazing. I should have been a little bit quicker, but I better be a little bit slower than not throw it off like Dave and the Porsche did. That's ultimately why we got a podium. But yeah, thank you very much. Hopefully, I will see you on Saturday. Until then, have a good start to your weekend tomorrow. But until then, take care. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.